Welcome to today's Homeowner with Danny Lipford. Expert advice on improving your home from the pages of today's Homeowner magazine and professional remodeler Danny Lipford.
Boy, what a nice neighborhood. You know, it's great when you see a street like this where almost every home has been completely restored, even though they're 90 to 100 years old. Now, you know, even though the homes are very old, most of them are occupied by younger families. And a real need we're seeing with younger families is finding additional living space for their aging parents. Now, we're solving this problem for this family by converting an existing large storage building in the rear of the house to a nice apartment or mother-in-law suite. We'll show you how we're efficiently using all of the space available, and we'll talk with the heating and cooling contractor about how he's designing and implementing his heating and cooling equipment. And the roofer's on the job, and he's in the process of repairing a very difficult to repair slate roof. We've got a lot to show you. Now, before we started this renovation on this existing storage building, it really was not a very pretty sight. It had a series of fixed glass panels all along the front of the building that were very poorly installed. It allowed a lot of the rainwater, particularly because we have very little overhang, to penetrate down in the wall and caused a lot of water damage. Now, this project is really unique in that generally on remodeling jobs, we're encroaching into porches or carports or garages to gain more living space. Here, we're actually encroaching into the interior areas to create this exterior porch, which is a real nice area since we have the pool nearby. Let's take a look at the plans. Now, when the homeowners decided to renovate this building, they hired an architect to produce a simple floor plan of how they wanted it to look. Now, the wall that we just talked about here in the front ran right along here and originally had another wall in the middle making two separate rooms. Now, we've constructed this new wall to create this exterior porch, and that made a real nice living area, little kitchenette on this side, bedroom, closets, and a bathroom. And then back over here where the pool pump and pool filter were located, we're left there, and then we have this little area where we'll locate an air handler unit for the central air and heat and the water heater. Now, anytime you have a building of this size that you're converting to living area, you want to make it appear as large as you can. And we started here in the porch to make a nice vaulted ceiling to really create a lot of space out here. And you may notice the strings that we've installed to try to straighten out a lot of the original rafters that we used, because there's been a lot of deflection and settlement in the rafters. This will straighten it out, make for a good smooth ceiling. Also, we've installed this series of clear glass doors with double pane glass to give some good natural light into the living room. This room really has a nice spacious feeling to it, with all of the doors on the one side, the windows on the back side, and especially the large vaulted ceiling. Now, this vaulted ceiling goes up over 11 feet in the center of the room. We're able to use new joist on one side and tie into the existing joist on the other side. Now, the large opening that I'm standing here in actually is between the living room and the bedroom. We'll have a series of bifold doors here that'll give good privacy in the bedroom, or you can open it up and have this room as part of the living area. Now, the electricians have been busy here installing their new sub panel. They'll be back in a day or two to tie in the rest of their wiring and get their inspection so that we can install all of the drywall. Now, one of the problems we ran into is the original sheathing on the building really does not lend the type of structural support you need in a corner situation like this. So to supplement that, we installed these thick galvanized straps that go from the top plate, nail into each of the studs, and tie into the bottom plate as well. Now, you may also notice how we've had to install some furring strips on the face of these studs. The reason for that is this wall was really out of plumb. So these furring strips go from 1/8 of an inch thick to 1 inch thick. That'll straighten out this wall. Once the drywall is installed, you'll never know that it was out of place like that. Now, the reason we didn't replace all of the wall was just far too costly. Another area we were very lucky in this renovation is an excellent slab. Now the foundation on this one not only was very level, but also it has a very smooth finish to it. So any type of flooring, whether it be a hardwood floor or a ceramic or even a vinyl, will be able to apply right over it without any problem. Now this is an area that you really need to look at closely if you're enclosing your carport, garage, or basement area, because if it doesn't have the proper moisture barrier, you can really have some problems later on. Now stay with us. After this simple solution, I'll show you around this project a little more.
Get ready to review your fix-it list as Danny and home repair pro Alan Lyle show you this week's simple solution.
Well, Alan, you picked a hot spot for this week's simple solution, but you've got a solution to a lot of problems that people have.
That's right. The homeowner here has a very spacious attic. Unfortunately, not a lot of storage space available. So what we're going to do is add approximately 32 square feet of storage area.
Okay, now I see that you've gotten a good start on it with the one piece of plywood, but how did you select this particular area in the attic?
Well, it looked like a clean spot. So I came up here with a broom and swept away my excess insulation. And what I found was a very, very large spot to use. Unfortunately, if you look down here, we've got one problem, actually two. The housing here from a light below, and this wire, which is just a little too close. So what we're gonna have to do is notch our board out.
Okay, so you've already got it marked out there. I'll give you a hand on that and get it sawed out and slip that one into place.
All right.
Okay, great. Get your wire out of the way here and...
All right. We'll probably need to slip it under our duct work over here.
Okay.
And then come back to you and even it up.
And then the wire's going on top.
That's it.
Great.
We definitely don't want the wires on the bottom.
Okay. I know some of these things you have to be real careful as far as notching the wires and so forth, but in this case you're able just to let them ride up above it and it's not a problem at all then with it.
Now, if you're going to be doing this type of work, a couple of things to remind you of. Make sure you have ample lighting so that you can see your work area. Also, know the direction your joists are running. It'll help you not to fall through the ceiling.
Another good tip, start early in the morning before it gets this hot.
Yeah.
Welcome back. We're looking at the renovation of an existing storage building and converting it into a mother-in-law suite or additional living area. Now we're in the kitchen section of the project and we're looking at where a trench was provided earlier in the day by the workman so that the plumber, when he comes tomorrow, will be able to run his drain lines and water lines under the slab, bring them up in the wall so that the kitchen sink, when it's installed later, will be able to hook right to it. Also, I mentioned earlier that the electricians have been on the job, and one of the electricians discovered a real problem with the roof when he was installing the recessed housing for some of the lighting. Apparently, there's been a leak there for quite a long time on the original slate roof. Well, we called the roofer, and he's outside to address that problem. Well, Terry, I know you had a chance to look at this old roof. What do you think?
Well, we got an older slate roof that got a few years on it and a few problems, so we're going to try to work on it and make some corrections and see if we can't help these folks out.
Okay, what about life expectancy on a slate roof like this? What do you normally see?
Normally these roofs here go anywhere from 40 to 60 years as a general rule of thumb from my experience.
I see. Well, you know, one of the things that I've seen that homeowners that have had roofs like this, they try to get up there and maybe clean some of the leaves or pine straw off of it and end up causing so much damage by walking on them the wrong way. It's pretty important to know how to walk on one.
Yeah, that's correct. If you don't know how to walk on them, you'll damage more, walking on them than you do to go up there and correct one problem.
Mm-hmm. Well, a lot of the things that we're seeing inside, some of the leaks that we just realized that are present in there, I guess are a result of a broken shingle, maybe with some of the felt that's a problem underneath. How do you approach repairing that type of repair?
Well, we got a special tool that we slide up under the shingles and remove the broken or cracked tiles in the perimeter of the problem area. And then we make the corrections to the felt, which is the waterproof membrane in this case. With these type tiles, the tiles act as just a sun block or a weather block for the waterproof membrane underneath, which is, the felt.
Mm-hmm. Well, a lot of people, don't realize that with like an asphalt shingle or a conventional shingle, that sun will really melt it together, but here, rain can blow right underneath it if you have those heavy rains like that.
And that's correct, and so the felt underneath is the waterproof membrane in this case, in these type shingles.
Okay. Now I know the air conditioning heating contractor had to put a gas vent up through the roof. Now you really have to take care of that with a lot of care in providing the roof vent that goes over there.
Correct. We have to take additional steps to make sure that jack is sealed properly and sealed down to the original felt where water can actually run over it when those tiles in those hard driving rains like you described, when that water gets underneath.
Okay. I've had some homeowners ask that we take all of the shingles like this, slate, off of a building, replace the membrane under it, and put them back on, but it's just about too labor intensive to even consider.
It's very labor intensive. I mean, you're getting down to where you're taking one tile off at a time and handing it down, so it's very labor intensive. There's some neat products out there comparable with the looks of this shingle that appear from a distance to be a slate tile roof, and for a whole lot less money.
Well, I know the homeowners told me that you replaced the roofing, the original slate roof on the main house with that type of diamond-shaped asphalt shingle, and
Correct.
It really does look good, and that'll give them all of the good properties that asphalt shingles have.
That's true.
Yeah,
That's
and a
true.
lot less expensive. What about cost on something like this? Just a ballpark figure of what are we looking at if someone put, say, a simulated slate roof on like this?
Comparable with the asphalt type shingle.
Right.
We're probably looking at less than $150 a square for that product and the labor, versus over probably $500 a square to do what you're talking about, to remove and replace this slate tile roof.
Right. That's a big difference, and
Yeah.
that makes it worthwhile to do a little repairs on it. And thanks for
Correct.
talking with us, and stay with us. Next is our best new product of the week.
It's time to check out the Home Center for this week's best new product with Danny and today's Homeowner Magazine's editor-in-chief, Paul Spring.
Danny, when it's pruning time in the winter, there's no substitute for a pole pruner. It allows you to get up in the trees while still standing on the ground and really bring down most of the limbs on almost any tree that isn't a big shade tree.
But the traditional type that have the ropes always have caused me a problem, because it'll get hung up in the branches up there, the rope wheel, and also the big pulley that's generally out on the side prevents you from really fishing the tool up to some of those higher branches.
And even the motion's a little bit awkward. Well, as you might have guessed, this is a tool that solves that problem. It's made by Structron, and what it really is a ropeless tree pruner. The way it works is this chain actuates a cable that runs all the way down to the end, and that's where the trigger is, if you will.
And with this being a fiberglass shaft, it's it's real light, so it's easy to use, and it's got the foam handles. But this is what's great, just having this pulling action to operate. It's a lot less awkward than trying to pull that old rope, and a lot better on the hands.
You bet it is. As you can see, it'll take a limb up to 1.25 inches. It uses a Teflon action. It's very smooth, and again, there's no rope to fray or to stretch in here. So it's strong, it's going to last a long time.
Okay, what about cost on this?
Cost on this is under $50, Danny, and it's the kind of innovation we like to see. It's a tool you have to use, and now it's one that's more convenient.
In addition to installing the electrical and plumbing systems in the building, naturally we need some heating and cooling. Now yesterday, the air conditioning and heating contractors got a great start in installing the system going in the building, and we had a chance to talk with their boss, HR Farnell. Well, HR, what are some of the elements or factors that you consider when you're determining just how much air conditioning and heating you need for a building like this?
Well, we always look at the windows and the doors, the insulation quality of the ceiling and the walls. We also look at the cubic footage sometimes, to make sure that they get enough air circulation in the place.
Okay. Now I know that we were able to position the air handler, or you're going to position it in a room adjacent to us here. And what about the ductwork here? How are you going to be able to get it to all of the rest of the building?
Well, starting with the air handler there, where the air is supplied, we'll offset and come through this little attic space right here we've got in this cathedral ceiling. We'll run a main trunk line with some ductboard all the way down into the other end of the house or structure, and from there We've got about 3 rooms over there. We need to branch off and catch each one of those.
Okay, good. Well, that should work out well. Now, this is a real important part of it here with your return air opening. Not only is the size important, the location's important on this.
Most definitely. The size is real important because of the, has to do with the tonnage of the air conditioner. Also, it does all the filtering right here to keep the air clean and keep the system clean as well. And it ties back into the main return, which comes up into the unit and circulation.
Okay. And also I understand the thermostat will be located here. I know that's crucial where it's actually located, and also the height of that's crucial as well.
Yeah, we normally put them about 5 feet. You know, that's good eye level and a good sampling. Also, being near the return, all the air is pulling back through here. It feels what it is in the house.
Okay. You know, you hear a lot about air conditioning equipment being upgraded and made more efficient, but also some of the ductwork that you're using is getting pretty efficient too.
Yes, we use a lot of duct board. This is our main trunk line like we was talking about going through that attic area. It's got a foil backing to seal it from moisture and everything. Insulated inside of 1-inch insulation. Got a good R value so that it doesn't absorb or lose too much heat or cooling.
I see. Okay.
And then the next thing we've got is these insulated boxes. That's where the air is distributed through the ceiling. They're good, strong galvanized metal on the outside and a 1-inch thick insulation to get the efficiency there as well.
Now I understand balance is crucial in this particular project because you have the air handler here and you have the little kitchenette area. You can get a lot of volume in there and very little on the other side. How are you going to address that?
Okay, well we fix that real easily by putting volume control dampers in every duct. And then when you've got one that's real close and it's getting a lot of air and something far away that's got air resistance, we open those up for the, you know, that lets a lot of air through, and we blank these off just a little bit down here so that more air goes down there, less up here, and it balances the whole building out.
Great, great. Well, I know they're about to position that air handler unit. Let's take a look at that.
Okay.
Well, I see they've been able to get your hole cut for the return air, but what about the duct board in the return air chase?
Okay, that quietens the unit down, makes it real acceptable inside the house.
Okay, now I see they're bringing the unit in, and I guess it just positions there.
That's all it does, it sits right in place.
Okay, all right.
Right in place with the gas unit. Then the evaporator coil, it goes and sits right on top of the unit. It's a good matched pair, all fits together mechanically.
Well, that's great, and they'll be able just to tie on just to the top of that and bring the ductwork right on out, just like we talked about before. Now, obviously it's a gas unit, and I see the vent pipe here that'll go on out. And what are some of the things that a homeowner needs to consider when they're selecting their heating and cooling system?
Well, on this particular unit here, the efficiency is real important. It's a good 80% efficient furnace. It also has good long warranties, 5 years on all the parts and 20 years on the heat exchanger.
Okay, great. Well, you've given us some good information. We'll check back with you another time talking about heating and cooling, and stay with us.
Now for a bit of news from the great outdoors as Danny takes a look around the yard.
Now don't wait until spring to plant tulips, daffodils, and other spring flowering bulbs. By planting them in fall, they develop a strong root system and they get the chilly reception they need to bloom. Now do your planting when soil temperature is below 60 degrees Fahrenheit. Gardeners in northern climates should plant in September or October. Sunbelt gardeners should wait until late November or early December to plant. As a general guideline, plant bulbs at a depth that is equal to 3 times their diameter at the widest point. Now this will vary some depending on the type of bulb and region of the country. Now here are 2 basic planting techniques. Dig individual holes with a trowel or bulb planting tool to plant a small number of bulbs. Now this technique works good for planting in tight spaces among other plants. Make holes wide enough so that the base of each bulb sits firmly on the soil. Now to plant 10 or more bulbs in the same location, excavate all soil from the bulb bed to the proper depth, set the bulbs in place, then cover with soil. Now earlier today the workmen were able to use the jackhammer to remove a concrete walkway that originally was here that led to a doorway. Now they removed the doorway as well and did a great job tying the new siding into the old. Now that this is removed, it's a perfect place for the air conditioner condenser to be placed here later in the project. Now I hope you enjoyed taking a look at this unique renovation, and if I was a mother-in-law, I wouldn't mind living in a place like this. Hope to see you next week here on Today's Homeowner.